Welcome to the Aesthetics Unfiltered podcast. We are Michelle Jones and Melanie Torres, two leading medical aesthetic nurse practitioners and great friends based in California. We uncover the inner workings of the booming aesthetics industry from both the patients as well as the providers' perspectives.
Join us for the authentic conversations about current and trending treatments, best practices, and the real issues people face with modern beauty standards. Any information or advice given is general in nature. You should consult with a healthcare provider before undergoing any treatment.
Hey everyone, welcome to Aesthetics Unfiltered. I am your host, Michelle Jones, and I have my co-host, Melanie Torres. How are you doing today, Mel? Everything good?
I'm good. Good morning. Happy Monday. I'm excited for our first podcast.
Me too. This has been a long time in the making. So basically, we are your local aesthetic nurse practitioner experts, and I'm in the Bay Area, and Melanie is in Los Angeles. And we are here to discuss all things aesthetics, behind the scenes, and we'll deep dive into basically different treatments, and we'll discuss all things social media with aesthetics, as well as what do we think's going on with different celebrity faces. So it's a little bit of everything. I'll talk about a little bit how I got into aesthetics and a little bit about me. And then Mel, you can tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into aesthetics. I've been in aesthetics for 12 years now. I'm a registered nurse and a nurse practitioner, and I have been working as a trainer, a national trainer for 2 years. I'm also starting my own private training company because it's just booming, and now this podcast. So there's a lot going on. I love education. Mel and I worked together for a while in the past, so we just really connected, and I think this industry is so diverse and there's so many things to unravel in aesthetics, and there's a lot of confusion. So we want to be your voice of reason. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Mel, or tell the audience.
Sure. So my name's Melanie Torres. I am a board certified nurse practitioner. I have been working in healthcare for 13 years, and I've been working in the beauty industry for how many years has it been? 6 or 7 years already. I started as an RN at the bedside. I worked on a med surg floor for 5 years. So I really got, training as being a real nurse. And I think that really adds to my professional life now, working in a med spa, doing injections, working with lasers, assessing patients. So I really learned that as a nurse in the hospital. And then I traveled over to California because I love the weather here. I'm over the East Coast. I'm not a cold weather person. And I got a job as a travel nurse at Stanford in a medical dermatology clinic. And then I just love skincare. I've always loved beauty. And then I ended up getting a job with Michelle at an amazing med spa in the Bay Area. And we got all our training together. We both went over policies and best practices. And I think we got amazing experience there. And then I moved to LA because my social life sucked in the Bay Area. And I'm super happy down here. And I work in a med spa in Brentwood.
Yeah, I love that. I still don't have a social life. That's why I'm doing this podcast. So I'm with you, girl. I think you are my social life.
Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a big topic right now is like everyone wants to get into aesthetics. That's a medical practitioner, in my opinion. And it's really interesting hearing our evolutions of how we get into aesthetics. I also started off, well, actually, my story is a little interesting. It had a lot of twists and turns. 10 years ago, aesthetics wasn't as big as it is now, but I kind of knew, I had kind of like an intuition that like, this is what I want to do. And I was a Pilates instructor at the time, and all I wanted to do was Botox injections and do Pilates. And I was like, that sounds good enough. But things evolved, and like I'm full in it aesthetics. And I ended up right out of nursing school. I knew someone who owned a med spa, and she luckily took me under her wing and trained me on lasers and Botox. And I had to beg her. I was really persistent, because I had no training and it was so new. And that's how I started. And then I ended up working in a hospital in a new grad program, which I'm very happy I did. It was like step down ICU. It was super intense. And I did that like I ended up going to med surge just because it was hardcore, and I did night shift, and night shift wasn't really working out for me because it was exhausting. But, I always knew I wanted to go into aesthetics or dermatology. I'm an artist as well. So it kind of just seemed like a very new, exciting, innovative field, which it is. And then I ended up working for a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. I quit the hospital. I just took a leap of faith on like a Craigslist posting, which was crazy because I was young and like I was dumb. That was intense. It didn't really pan out amazingly, but I learned a lot. And then I got hired at another med spa as a trainer for aesthetics. And then I got recruited to the current position I'm in now. And then I became a national trainer. So all these things just kind of evolved as the industry was evolving. And I think we both have a lot of knowledge in aesthetics. And I think it's a really interesting field right now. And I think it's worth talking about and having a conversation. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I ended up in aesthetics, although there was a lot of twists and turns. And I remember my first job injecting Botox, I would sweat in the bathroom and have like a panic attack before I had to go out and like do Botox because it was my first job as a nurse. And it was funny. Looking back, it's kind of funny.
Right. But it's scary. It's always scary.
It is
the
scary.
First time you're shooting a little needle into someone's face. I have a quick question about your evolution. When was the first time you got Botox? How did you find out about medical aesthetics, and how did you become passionate about it?
I never thought it would turn into like a full-time gig just because it wasn't really offered as that like 10, 12 years ago. I just thought it was like a little side gig. But now I realize that like, and we can get into this topic later, that like to be really good at aesthetics, I don't think it should be a side gig. And I'm very like adamant about that. But I got my first Botox, I think I was 29. And I remember when I had that, my eyebrows were so high that my mom was like, "Do you have a question?" And I was like, "No, I don't." And she was like, "You need to relax on the Botox." But it was addicting, it was,
100%.
and I remember, I just remember, we all remember our first Botox session. Like, come on, how about you?
It's a huge gateway for women. And I mean, it's kind of weird, like how much our industry is so relevant in culture and in business world and personal lives. Like it's a really important topic now. Sometimes I feel guilty about that. Like I love to like volunteer with homeless people and I love to like care for sick people, but by fate, sometimes I think your career and life just kind of go by its own path. And that's what happened to me. I got Botox for the first time when I was 27 years old. And I was working as a secretary in finance in Manhattan in Midtown. And my boss was this really cool woman. She was only she was probably like 40 and I was 27 or something. And she was like, "Hey," it was in 2003, and she was like, "Hey, did you hear about this new shots that like you can put them in your face? It just came out and it makes you look younger and it takes away your wrinkles. And do you want to come try it with me?" And I was like, "Sure." And during our lunch break, we went to this fancy plastic surgeon on Park Avenue. And I think I got Dysport actually the first time. And I remember I looked at the nurse practitioner who did. I was like, "She has the coolest job ever. She's like, looks fierce. She's like gorgeous. She gets to make people look cool. And this is this new job and these new medicines." And I was like, I could totally see myself doing that because I was like miserable working in finance. And then 13 years later, here I am. I'm on vacation this week, but I do injections like Botox every single day at work.
I love that. And I kind of had that aha moment too. I remember when my first job at the med spa, I remember that nurse practitioner and she seemed so happy and she was running around and I was like, "Is this for real? How can I get into this? This seems awesome." And I had that aha moment. And here we are now. We're doing it, girl. And we're innovating with the times. But it's always interesting to hear like medical professionals, like how they got into aesthetics. And I always get that question now. And I kind of think about it as like, I can't just go into the ICU without experience. Right. And you kind of can go into aesthetics without any experience, which is, I think, a little bit scary because there's not a lot of regulation. We can go into that in another episode.
Yeah.
But you know, I think there are places that you can work to do the basics and then build. You know, I think new injectors just have, there's so much to learn, and the learning curve is so vertical that it's kind of intense. And like for me, I'm like a slow and steady person. Like, let's get comfortable with this. Now let's go to the next level, you know? And I just feel like it's changed a lot because there's so much pressure and people want to open things so quickly. And I
Yeah,
think
that's I'm
that,
not into that at all. Like I really think it took for the first year I worked with at our last job, I did laser hair removal for a year and only Botox. Oh no, and I did IPL. So I did laser hair
mhm,
removal, IPL, and Botox injections for 12 months straight. And I
yeah,
just felt like I wanted to be like an expert in those before
yeah,
I moved on to fillers and,
more
heavy
risky
duty
treatments.
lasers and like, right, things that, and I feel like that going slow like that is a really good starting point for new people in our industry.
I do too, and I think that's what's kind of missing. I mean, I kind of wish there was a little bit like a certification. I mean, there is like aesthetic nurse specialist, which I have that certification. That's like the only like credentialed certification for nurses in aesthetics, but really there's no regulation in terms of like take these steps first and then graduate to this, and we can go into
Right.
reactions and all those things. But I was the same as you. I started just with like laser hair removal, and I did Botox for like 2 years. That's all I did. And I just observed.
Yeah.
And there actually wasn't training back then like there is now. Like there's an abundance of training now, which is good and bad. And we can go into that. So, with all of that, we kind of
Yeah.
did our little intro, kind of got off on a side topic, but I think it's fun and interesting, especially for those trying to get into the field. And it's nice to hear everybody's stories in aesthetics. So basically, our podcast will have a different topic each week. And we have a few topics lined up, so stay tuned for our next episodes. We're going to dive in a little bit to social media today as well. We'll dive into like our day-to-day work lives, and then we'll dive into future episodes of like breaking down treatments, breaking down what different lasers are. We can go on things that are trending in aesthetics, the really trendy treatments. We can go over our own experiences on what I've done, what I think worked, what I think we could do better. What topics are you looking forward to, Mel?
So some that I have really been interested in like communicating and learning about and talking about are is the increase of aesthetics with male patients and
Mm-hmm.
treatments that are great for men and the stigma men have about coming in and to get treatment. So men in aesthetics is one.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
hot right now.
Totally. I know. I just did filler on my boyfriend and he absolutely loved it. And he's this total like business, like SoCal San Diego guy, and he's so happy with it. And it's
Aw.
exciting to learn, teach guys that it's not scary and they're not going to be like judged upon if they do these treatments and look natural in it. So men and aesthetics. I also want to talk about the competition in our industry and how sometimes it can get crazy and like just it makes there's a lot of like what's it called when you're on what's it called when you're on social media and someone trolls you. So the trolling on social media,
Yeah.
the I'm one upping. I really want to delve into how social media can make you feel good and also make you feel really bad
Yeah.
professionally and personally. What else do we want to talk about? Those will branch off into new things. I want
Yeah.
to do a day in the life of a med spa provider, what my day looks like, what your day looks like, and then again, like our favorite treatments and kind of telling listeners how we do them, who's best in them, the results they give, and kind of,
Yeah, be a
education and
resource. Yeah.
exactly
I think our
100%.
goal is to really be a resource for people, patients out there, potential patients, just to like cut through the confusion that's out there. And, I think the other thing with aesthetics is like you're going to get a lot of opinions no matter who you go to. And that's partly because there's so many treatments and you can't be an expert in every treatment. It's just impossible. So we all are kind of like mini experts in like certain things. And so that's what makes it a little bit confusing out there. Is it's like we're all categorized into this one category, but like there's a lot of subcategories of like there's a laser specialist, there's a filler, people that are really good at lips, people that are really good at like nose filler, you know? So there's like a lot of subcategories and we don't all do everything because you just can't. There's way too many treatments out there. So I think that's what can be a little confusing for people. And we don't need every treatment either. That's the other thing. It's like,
Do you agree? Do you think that I've heard from someone in our, a great key opinion leader or something, they said that you should just on your social media focus on your like one thing you're good at, like don't put pictures of all the treatments you've done. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I wish I had guidance, honestly. There wasn't a guide for me, right? You kind of just have to figure things out as you go along. And I think it's hard to be excellent at everything. And I think what you post is what you attract, right? So like if you love doing lip filler and you're posting lip filler and they're good outcomes, then you're going to get a lot of lip filler patients. If you're posting a lot of like full facial correction and balancing, then you're probably going to get a lot of that, right? So it's kind of like what you put out is what you get. And sometimes it is nice to specialize in one thing just because things can get a little diluted. And like we could go into the social media aspect because we're kind of getting there right now.
Right.
But social media, I think pre-COVID, it wasn't really that big. And then boom, COVID hit and Instagram, social media aesthetics exploded. And it's almost like a prerequisite for us to even do our work. It's kind of like, it's an unsaid mandatory, right? So it's something that I think takes a lot of time, and it's like I get frustrated.
I don't have time to do it.
I get frustrated because I want to be learning new things, and instead I'm like a social media manager. Like I signed up for a social media course. I have no time to do that. And I'm like, then I feel guilty. And it's like, I think the point is hire somebody, but it's sometimes hard to hire the right help. And it's like, just how important is it, right? And it's like, that's the question, but it is something that's not going away. And it's getting a little chaotic, in my opinion. And whether or not you're on social media or not, you're going to have to deal with it because people are going to tell you about the TikTok they saw. They're going to tell you about this other injector. They're going to show you a filtered face that's like not reality. And it's a part of our lives now. And how do you feel? How do you feel about it, Mel?
Well, you're great at it. You actually were someone that inspired me to even start on social media. You were like, you can just do everything, and I'm so jealous. I don't know how
I have like lots of breakdowns where I'm crying in a corner, and I have like two friends.
You're so committed. You're so you just have so much determination. Anyway, I don't know how these amazing women can have kids, dogs, travel, go to conferences, have this amazing social media pages, do dances on social media, look amazing, look perfect, do their before and afters. Like, how does someone do that all day? It takes me an hour to do one post that's like super mediocre.
I think they just have a lot of help. I have a cat and a husband. I don't have a kid. So there's no way I'd be able to do this if I had all of that. But I think when you watch other people that are doing it all, you do feel kind of,
I feel horrible about myself. I feel like, I have like 800 followers. I don't know. I have like 800 followers. You have like 30,000. There's a lot of competition in our industry. And I think it stems a lot from social media. And I don't know. I want to get past that, and I want to not feel bad about myself. But social media makes everyone feel bad about themselves because everyone looks perfect on social media.
I feel bad about. I put a timer on for myself, and I try to create it more like a business because after 5 minutes, I feel really depressed. And it's like I have an art account for like my art that I used to do, and like I feel happy when I'm on that account.
Right.
But I think we just have to kind of know, because a lot of it is like just controversial too. I feel like what I'm seeing a lot more on social media is like people aren't really saying the full story. It's like there's a lot of, and they're really posting things that are a little controversial to get attention and
Well, yeah,
saying
like
ones. And I
what,
mean,
like
it's some of it. I'm like, wow, that is really just to get some comments and get some traction. Like, good for you, dude. I'm like, but I'm surprised how ballsy some people are. I like to give like equal sides of the equation. There's always multiple sides to a story about a treatment, right? It's not like this treatment's bad. It's kind of like,
right,
it,
right. But with the doctors and you know med spa providers, like there's a lot of hostility with that now, and I think that's even in the last like year. I didn't notice that, in
I didn't
2020
notice it
when
either.
it's all in the last like 12 months or something, and it's really vicious, and it's like we are all teammates, we all, hey docs, like we do like 80% of the work like in the OR and like prepping for you, and the MAs do like 80% of our work, and it's like you can't say that one thing is bad and you're better and don't do this treatment, because I think they all work together. I think there's you can do both, and have natural looks, and you can also do one or the other and look horrible, because
Yeah.
and it's not just, surgeons say that we don't have experience and we're not good, and then we can say that to them, that they don't know about beauty as much and about fashion in the magazines, and we're staring
Yeah.
at ourselves putting on makeup since we were 4 years old. So I honestly think like women, we do know, because we literally look at our faces every single minute. All of us do. So I think we actually have a great aesthetic and great best practices.
Yeah. I think, maybe we should all take an art course as a prerequisite, like you said.
Yes, seriously.
Like you can't really teach a good aesthetic. Like,
Right.
you can teach somebody how to inject, but like I think the difference between an expert injector and someone who's starting out is kind of understanding your own aesthetic and like what you stand by and what you think is beautiful, and also knowing when to say no to somebody and not feeling bad about it. I mean, I think that's all stuff you can't teach and just comes with time. But I agree with you. There's a lot of toxicity and there's a lot of one-sided opinions on social media that are very new. And I didn't see that, like what you said a year ago. It's kind of like this whole intense, and I don't know if it's just that there's more people entering the industry and that's people want to stand out. And so they think a way to stand out is just to be dramatic. Like
Right.
that's my assumption. But
Yeah. Fear. Well, I mean, fear and, emotion is what produces clicks and produces time watched, is like how shocking you can be. And
yeah,
it's like, I don't know. All of this is just so scary. I'm so happy I actually don't have children, because I would just feel like if I had little kids, I would just be so scared for their well-being. And if like I feel bad about myself in my late 40s when I
yeah,
go on social
me
media,
too.
imagine if you were like 11 or 12 and you were
Yeah.
like a late bloomer, like, you know, I would feel absolutely horrible about myself. I really think there needs to actually be government regulation. I doubt it's ever going to happen. I know they're talking about it now, and like timing, the Surgeon General just was like, I'm putting out that this is a danger to your health and like
Mm-hmm.
your mental well-being, because if he doesn't say that,
Yeah.
in 5 years, all the parents are going to sue the government saying, you never told us that our kids, their depression levels are up by 50%.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big topic that's not really aesthetic based is just teenagers and social media. I think that's pretty toxic, and I don't know how to get around that because I think it's just part of our life. But sometimes I do feel really guilty posting before and afters and being like, look, you need to be pretty. And like, I personally am tired of obsessing about my face too. Like to even get ready for this podcast, I have a ring light. I have like loads of makeup on because like I have bags under my eyes, and like
Right.
I don't want to feel like I'm obsessing about my face every single day because of our industry, and like the beauty
Right.
standards have just gotten so crazy and like out of proportion. And it like, I've always had like a little bit of OCD because I'm a perfectionist and like I obsess about things, and I want to feel free, I don't want to feel
Mhm.
trapped by my face and my looks, and like it's really toxic. And I feel like a lot of people have body dysmorphia out there. And
Totally. I was
It's
just
hard. I
looking at
think we're
myself.
creating it
While you were
personally.
talking about this, I was just looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like, wait, do I look okay? I was
You
like, all
look
right,
great. I
I
was
have to
like,
move my like aesthetic
Melanie, tell
thing.
everyone how old you are. Sorry.
I'm 48 years old. I
Melanie
just
looks
turned
is like
48.
you're like my like goals, like seriously.
Thank you. Well, we should also go over what we have done.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Transparency.
A transparency, everything we've done, what treatments we've got over the years, because
Yeah.
and I really think, and we'll talk about this, when we dive deeper into each episode about what when you go in for a consult with us with a med spa, if you want to do a treatment, what you should do, what you should look for in a
Yeah, that's
provider,
important.
what the consult is like the consult's the first time you ever meet someone that's going to do a med spa. I say that just so people understand what I'm saying, like do a treatment in a med
Hmm.
spa, you really have to have a connection with the person that's doing it.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely go into that in more detail.
Yeah, and like not every inject you have to really connect with your injector, connect with their aesthetic. Like, I think that's super important. And ask questions, take your time. I mean, I would say Botox, I actually thought Botox was way easier. And when I say Botox, I'm talking about all the neuromodulators, which we'll go through in another episode. And that's more educational. But like, I used to think it was so easy, but now it's like, it's so detailed to have a perfect result, And so I really
Mhm.
do kind of deep dive into that. And, I think going in and getting Botox to start is maybe not that big of a deal, but the way I treat it is like, I treat it like a freaking art project. So I take it seriously.
Good
So
for
you want to
you.
find someone that like, really assesses
Cares.
your face, cares and understands. And it's not just like a cookie cutter recipe. And how
Right.
I do Botox now is completely evolved in how I used to do it. And it's like, we're always learning, we're always pushing. And that's what I love about you, Mel, is you're always learning. You're always going to the next like webinar. You're always going to the next conference. You're always like researching things. And I think that's another thing too, like our industry, because it's so innovative, you can't stay still. Like every day I'm like, oh my God, I got to watch this webinar. Now I got to watch that. Like I got to learn
There's
how
so
to do the
much
social
different.
media thing. I got to sign up for this. Like it's fun, but it's intense. It can be
Yeah.
intense.
I have to learn how to do a med spa dance. Like that's my neck. I think we I think we should do
I
like,
don't know if I can do it. I'm
because
sorry.
that
I
I don't
can't
think
do
I
it.
can either, but like people, when I was scrolling last night, just because we were prepping for the podcast, just to get inspiration, and I was like, wait, I'm like, and it's weird because it's so stupid, but like I was actually like jealous of it, and because I'm someone that would never do that, so I'm like,
I'm
how
not
can
either.
I?
I'm a little uptight, but I think I need to like branch out.
Right.
But you take dance lessons, so that's
I do.
awesome.
I do.
Maybe
We should do what we can go through this, and we can like produce a social media post sometime
I'm
together.
ready. I
Yeah,
think
let's do it.
there was like an article that came out that was it was like, should your plastic surgeon be dancing on TikTok? I personally don't have time. I can barely pee throughout my day. It's like get a double espresso, run down the hall, like do this note, call this patient back. It's
Yeah.
I don't have time or energy to do a dance, but maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe that would make me better. I'm going to look
Well,
into it.
we'll try one together. We can do one on a podcast. But yeah, the day is really busy. I agree, because we're healthcare providers, we're saleswomen, we're educators, we're psychotherapists. It's like a connection with your patients. It's following up, and it's like it's a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, doing the social media is always hard for me.
Well, I'm with you. I think we can go through our day to day maybe on our next episode and kind of wrap this one up as an intro. But today I just wanted to get our audience like a little excited that they have a resource for aesthetics. And I'm looking forward to our next episodes together.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think our next episode will go over kind of like the day to day of just an aesthetic
of
nurse
our jobs.
practitioner. Yep.
Okay.
And we will go over maybe a little more in depth of social media and kind of like what's on trend and what we think is happening in the industry and why. I like that.
Cool. Cool. That sounds
But
great.
you guys can reach us at our Instagram handle as well as our YouTube. And you can even email us. So I am skin.smarty SMARTIE.NP on Instagram and TikTok. And Melanie.
I am at Melanie, Melanie .skin.np on Instagram and TikTok. And it's a small handle or whatever, but I'm trying to build it up and I'm excited to do this podcast.
That's awesome. And then we also have started a podcast or Instagram for our podcast. It's Aesthetics Unfiltered Podcast. So definitely DM us there. Add some love because we just are launching that right now. And
we're going to be asking questions on that. So it's going to be like an interactive podcast where you can ask questions you want to learn about on our feeds, and then we will answer them on this podcast.
Yeah, I love that. Think of this as a fun resource and something educational and fun at the same time that is unfiltered. That's our mission. Thanks, guys.
All right. This was great. See you soon.
For our latest news, follow us on Instagram at aesthetics.unfiltered.podcast or in our personal pages on Instagram.
Mine is melanie.skin.np and Michelle skin.smarty.np, both on Instagram. Have a great day.